Hey everyone, welcome to this week's edition of Table Talk with Mike. And this week I thought I'd continue on with a discussion about different types of financing and talk about commercial mortgages. As the name applies, it's a mortgage on a piece of real estate used for business purposes. So lots of different factors and variables come into play into how that is set up and what conditions and terms might be applied to the mortgage. Could be anything from a mortgage on bare land, for example. Typically, bare land financing, you'd have a maximum loan to value of 50% of the purchase price or appraised value is what we would finance. Bare land financing would also probably be limited to a 10-year amortization. You can have a 1 year to a 5-year term within that. And of course, you could have a fixed interest rate or a floating interest rate. Other things that we can put a commercial mortgage on would be, commercial condo bay, manufacturing plant, any type of commercial real estate. That would include as well, multi-purpose or multi-use buildings that have maybe a retail or commercial component on the ground floor and then apartments above it. Could be townhomes or residential property that is put into a business name. I know with us at Service, we don't do that on the retail side as a retail mortgage. We would do that as a commercial mortgage, where even though it's a residential property that might become a revenue property for someone, if they want it in their business name, we treat it as a commercial property. So commercial properties, a mortgage on a commercial property typically has a little bit higher interest rate. It can take a little bit long to put together than it would take to do a retail residential mortgage. But yeah, so those are some things to think about there. The other different components that go into a commercial mortgage would be the type of property it is. Can have a bearing on what the loan to value would be that we would do, what the maximum amortization might be. Something that's very specialized form of building, for example, a gas station or a mechanic shop, something that's very specialized niche type of building that has one purpose and would take a lot of cost and construction to renovate the building and to suit a different purpose. Those type of specialized buildings have different conditions and terms on it as well, and can also, as I mentioned, limit the amount of financing that we can do on them. Typically, on a your average commercial property, a commercial condo bay that a business might operate out of, we could do an amortization of 25 years. Again, fixed interest rate or floating interest rate. On every commercial property, we are going to take into account environmental factors. So there are different levels of environmental questionnaires or appraisals that need to be done. Level 1 environmental questionnaire is fairly simple and straightforward, and it would be for a commercial condo bay that any business might operate out of. Where there are some other environmental concerns, then we might escalate to a level 2 or level 3 environmental appraisal. And obviously those become more expensive to put together because they are more intensive and more detailed into what they're looking at. Other things with the commercial mortgage, we will be looking at an appraisal, and every lender has a list of approved appraisers that they work with. So if you are looking at getting an appraisal done on a commercial property for financing purposes, make sure you check with your account manager to ensure that the appraiser you want to use is on their approved list. That way there won't be any issues going forward. So again, lots of different things that come into play with respect to commercial mortgages, but for the most part, in general, they are pretty straightforward. Not a whole lot different from a residential mortgage, other than the appraisal is a little bit different, and the environmental factors that come into play, the type of property it is. Another factor that can play a role in loan to value and terms, conditions, amortizations is also where the property is located. If it's located in a major center like Calgary, no problem. We can probably do up to 75%, 25-year amortization going forward. If it's in a smaller town, say Bicycle or Acme, outlying towns not far from Calgary, we might be looking at shortening the amortization or reducing the amount of financing that we can do on that. Maybe it's 65% or 60% financing on the property. So different factors come into play, but just a little bit of background on what commercial mortgages are all about. If you have any questions, certainly leave me a comment below or send me a direct message and I will get back to you as soon as I can. Otherwise, have a great week and we'll see you down the road.